Laut. Okay, dann lasse ich jetzt mal alle Leute rein. Ja. Ah. Hello, everyone.
Oh,
Thanks for joining. We'll start in a few seconds. Just want to make sure there are more people have a chance to join. Great to see so many known faces. It's great. So we had 71 registrations, and I see that we had 10 people. So I would say let's get started, and as more people arrive, I will leave them in. So we got another one. All right, thanks so much for joining. Thank you for taking the time to attend this presentation on aligning with customers around their jobs to be done. This is a talk I gave at the CXM360 Conference at Michigan State University just a few weeks ago. And there were so many people came up to me and say, hey, can you repeat this? I missed it. I said, okay, let's schedule something on LinkedIn. So let's get started. A year ago, I was commissioned by a German mid-sized company, a manufacturer of household appliances, to evaluate a product idea. So they had an idea about a new machine. It was already developed on paper, and they just wanted to have a validation. Does this machine make sense? Does this have any chance for getting a market success? And then we went through a process called customer progress design and determined whether there was a market or not. I'm not going to give it away, but it helped me really to understand how we can align customers around how we can align with customers around their jobs to be done. So let's talk about the problem before and frame it before we're gonna talk amongst ourselves what the issue looks like in practice. And I found this interesting quote from Ashish Jain on LinkedIn, and he talked about his perspective, what he thinks misalignment looks like. And the key here is that the way he frames it, that the misalignment between the customer and the company, the entire organization, is here what the issue is. It's a deep-rooted problem that, if not solved well, there will be lots of inefficiencies, not only addressing the customer's real needs, but also inconsistencies in communications and how you sell the product. It's not selling what you build and not building what you sell. And this is really what organizations want to avoid. And this is what the issue is in this presentation. So it's all centered around misunderstanding or being misaligned in regards to customers. So I want to know from your experience, some of you are consultants, some of you work in big organizations, please use the chat and write down your experience. What does misalignment with customers looks like to you? How is it manifested in organizations? How is it kind of visible to you or the outside world? So I'd
on the
really
back.
like to know.
Okay.
Yep. So if you could use the chat just to write down your thoughts about misalignment with customers, that would be great. So what do we got here? Failed feature release, lack of adoption. Okay, it looks like building online offerings or digital products that don't convert. Absolutely. Misalignment with customers, churn and decrease revenue. Yeah, that wouldn't be surprising if that was a result of that misalignment. And customers don't expect behave as expected. Absolutely, absolutely. That's a big issue. Lack of understanding what actually is behind the brand connection. Yeah, you want to understand what the customer needs and how to react by building a brand, product flops. So there are many ways how this can surface and becomes visible. So let's take a look at how the view is that I developed about misalignment. So when we have the customer on one side, we have the organization on the other side with engineering, product management, marketing, and sales, just as an example. The object that's connecting both worlds is obviously the product or the service. So all kind of all of our performance that helps the customer make progress and get a job done. And when I ran this project for the customer, I used a case study that I developed around a machine that another manufacturer has developed to showcase how this misalignment looks like. And the other manufacturer, a very well-known brand in Germany, it's very well respected, has great design, great technology. They developed a machine. I hope you can guess what it is. That costs $600 or 600 euros these days, and takes up space on the countertop in your kitchen. Can anyone guess what this is?
All right, that's fine.
Can anyone guess how does this look like?
Tea maker.
Tea?
It's a tea maker, right? It's a tea maker. It uses technology, the latest and greatest technology for making tea. It's really superb, getting the deepest, kind of most refined flavor out of the tea. And so engineering had perceptions about the product. They thought that customers may like tea in capsules, like we know from Nespresso. So coffee in capsules is very successful. It's easy to use. It's kind of, you can make coffee very quickly. So why can't we to tea as well?
Sorry, I got a minute.
Product management, interesting. I think if you could, someone who has a microphone.
You're amazing.
Thank you. If you could mute your phone, that would be fantastic. Product management did a lot of customer research, actually. They claimed they did customer jobs to be done research. And what they found out is that there's a latent need for a digitally enhanced tea entertainment, whatever that means. But they found out there is this need. Then there was marketing who thought because customers like their brand, they would like the new machine as well. And sales had experience with the former household kitchen appliance they created, which was tremendously successful here in Germany. And they thought this new machine would be another kind of revenue creator for the company. Now, they somehow forgot the customer and the machine failed. It was a multi-million-dollar investment. They started just a company to produce and sell this product, and it failed. And after 4 years, they had to close it down. Very unfortunate for the company, lost a lot of money. And it was because what the customer wanted was an easy and expensive way to make tea. They didn't want to spend $600 or euros on a machine that makes something simple complicated. And yes, the machine was probably pretty good in getting the latest flavor, the best flavor out of the tea, because it prepares it right, exactly how it's needed for the tea, with the right temperature, the right amount of water, the right time for boiling, and so on. But when you look at the comments on the internet, in the forums, or reaction to the advertising, people just they laughed about it. They said, "Hey, are you crazy? You make something that's very simple, very complicated and expensive. And it takes up space on your kitchen countertop." So unfortunately, that was a hard learning. And it just made me remember one time I went to Napa Valley to the Culinary Institute and did a tea entertainment, participated in a tea entertainment event where we compared white wine with tea. That was tea entertainment, to compare the flavors of both very different drinks. But for the customer, it was like, it didn't make sense at all. So my message to my client was, do the customer research, find out what the customer jobs are, and then having a nice way to evaluate the customer job, whether it makes sense for both customer and the organization. And what I'm gonna present to you and offer to you is a way to kill two birds with one stone. One is to get rid of the misalignment with the customer, and also getting everyone in the organization on the same page. So there should also be no disalignment going forward. And the project was very successful in that sense, bringing the organization together and aligning behind customer jobs. So in summary, what this looks like is like here, these how the organization thinks, the different departments think about each other. And these are very typical things you may hear in big organizations, that marketing doesn't bring any value. They create great collateral, great shiny pieces. Product teams think about engineering, that they live in a cocoon. They are so far removed from customers, and sales is incompetent, and so on. Marketing lives in an ivory tower at the top and has no understanding of the customer. So that reflects another flavor of this misalignment. So one is the entire organization is misaligned with the customer, but also the different groups within a company are disaligned. And so these are two huge areas of misalignment. And in summary, what are the root causes in my mind? One is that these departments live in silos. Engineering, marketing, sales, they make their own strategies. They may do their own draw conclusions about customer needs and so on. Then a lot of assumptions are made about customers. I just read a report from someone here in Germany, is how little the spend is on original customer research. It's really doesn't make sense at all. People like to make assumptions, and that is never good, even if you're part of the target audience. And then strategic decisions are often a power struggle. There are fights between engineering and marketing, who has a seat at the table, who has to say, who makes decisions. This is not very healthy, not for the organizational health, for the culture, but also not for the customer. So I hope you have seen these things. I mean, unfortunately, they exist. They are not good, and we can help organizations to solve these issues. But I've heard that it's a common issue in many companies. If you have any questions, I do have the chat open, so you can pop in any questions you may have along the presentation. So let's move on to solution. Let's approach it. And many people have heard about the jobs to be done theory and how it can help to make better decisions. But for those of you who haven't heard about it, I brought a very popular video. It's probably the most popular video about jobs to be done by Clayton Christensen, the former Harvard professor and one of the key protagonists of jobs to be done. He passed away a number of years ago, but his video really is legendary. So I'm going to play it. It's 5 minutes. Then we're going to talk a little bit about it and look at what are the flavors of jobs to be done. So let me play this, and then we'll be back.
My name's Clay Christensen. I'm a professor at the Harvard Business School. I brought with me a set of puzzles, all related to innovation. We decided that the way we teach marketing is at the core of what makes motivation difficult to achieve. The most helpful way we've thought of it so far is that we actually hire products to do things for us. And understanding what job we have to do in our lives for which we would hire a product is really the key to cracking this problem of motivating customers to buy what we're offering. So I wanted just to tell you a story about a project we did for one of the big fast food restaurants. They were trying to goose up the sales of their milkshakes. They had just studied this problem up the gazoo. They brought in customers who fit the profile of the quintessential milkshake consumer. And they'd give them samples and ask, could you tell us how we can improve our milkshakes so you buy more of them? Do you want it chocolatey or cheaper, chunkier, chewier? They get very clear feedback. They would then improve the milkshake on those dimensions, and it had no impact on sales or profits whatsoever. So one of our colleagues went in with a different question on his mind, and that was, I wonder what job arises in people's lives that cause them to come to this restaurant to hire a milkshake. So we stood in a restaurant for 18 hours one day and just took very careful data. What time did they buy these milkshakes? What were they wearing? Were they alone? Did they buy other food with it? Did they eat it in the restaurant or drive off with it? It turned out that nearly half of the milkshakes were sold before 8 o'clock in the morning. The people who bought them were always alone. It was the only thing they bought, and they all got in the car and drove off with it. So to figure out what job they were trying to hire it to do, we came back the next day and stood outside the restaurant so we could confront these folks as they left milkshake in hand. In a language that they could understand, we essentially asked, excuse me, please, but I got to sort this puzzle out. What job were you trying to do for yourself that caused you to come here and hire that milkshake? And they'd struggle to answer, so we'd then help them by asking other questions like, well, think about the last time you were in the same situation, needing to get the same job done, but you didn't come here to hire a milkshake. What did you hire? And then as we put all of their answers together, it became clear that they all had the same job to do in the morning. And that is, they had a long and boring drive to work. And they just needed something to do while they drove to keep the commute interesting. One hand had to be on the wheel, but somebody had given them another hand and there wasn't anything in it. And they just needed something to do while they drove. They weren't hungry yet, but they knew they'd be hungry by 10 o'clock. So they also wanted something that would just down there and stay for that morning. Good question. What do I hire when I do this job? You know, I've never framed the question that way before, but last Friday, I hired a banana to do the job. Take my word for it, never hire bananas. donuts. They're gone in 3 minutes. You're hungry by 7:30. If you promise not to tell my wife, I probably hire donuts twice a week, but they don't do it well either. They're gone fast. They crumb all over my clothes. They get my fingers gooey. Sometimes I hire bagels, but as you know, they're so dry and tasteless. Then I have to steer the car with my knees while I'm putting jam on them. And then if the phone rings, we got a crisis. I remember I hired a Snickers bar once, but I felt so guilty. I've never hired Snickers again. Let me tell you, when I come here and hire this milkshake, it is so viscous that it easily takes me 20 minutes to suck it up that thin little straw. Who cares what the ingredients are? I don't. All I know is I'm full all morning and it fits right here in my cup holder. Well, it turns out that the milkshake does the job better than any of the competitors, which in the customer's minds are not Burger King milkshakes, but it's bananas, donuts, bagels, Snickers bars, coffee, and so on. But I hope you can see how, if you understand the job, how to improve the product becomes just obvious.
So I don't know, for some reason I can watch this video over and over again, and I enjoy it, and every time I learn something new. So what Clay Christensen said is, if you understand the job to be done, how to improve the product just becomes obvious. And the reason is that you understand what the purpose is. What is the reason why people pull new products into their lives? Because they have a job to be done. And very helpful is also to look at what are flavors of jobs to be done. And in general, we talk about 3 different ones. One is a functional job, an emotional job, and a social job, which is a sub-job of an emotional job. So when we do research with customers, we should not only understand like function and features and kind of technical benefits. We should always look for emotional issues, emotional customer jobs, and perhaps social jobs where you need someone else to have a positive emotional reaction. So examples of functional jobs could be like transporting something from A to B, calculating a value, bringing a child to school safely, which also could be an emotional job to it. And emotional jobs is enjoying yourself, getting peace of mind, which is a huge job often in the B2B space, is when people are afraid something could happen along a project, and feeling proud of an achievement, of course, can be one. And then we have social jobs where we need other people to give us recognition and love and kind of positive emotions that can be being recognized. Like my wife posts all the time on Instagram pictures of her meals, and I asked her once, why do you do this? Why do you post pictures of food that you prepare? And she said, you know, I like recognition. I like being recognized. So every like is like an enjoyment for her. And I asked her, am I not praising you enough and giving you recognition? And she said, yes, you do, but I need more. I just want more. So this is an example of a social customer job. Of course, things like achieving higher social status, or also helping other people and getting the feeling that you have done something well, could also be a one social customer job. So there's a whole kind of bandwidth and hierarchy of customer jobs that we cannot go into, unfortunately, but just to let you know that there are customer jobs feeding into higher level customer jobs, and these higher level customer jobs, like at the 30,000, 40,000 foot level, they get fed by customer jobs underneath. So they become more tactical, more functional. And we want to understand the whole range of customer jobs. So the ones that are very high level, and most of the time no one in interviews can talk about, but also the ones that help to consist or consist a cluster of customer jobs that make up another customer job. So I'm going to show you an example of a job map later on, but let's now take a look at what are the prerequisites for alignment, for achieving that alignment with customers and also alignment within an organization. And I developed something I call the 6 building blocks of building customer job alignment. The first one is something that I've heard at the conference many, many times. It's about the importance of having a shared purpose. Having a shared purpose sounds good, but what could be a shared purpose? And what I'm suggesting is that you may want to target certain customers. You have maybe some personas. You have target audiences in mind. And instead of really targeting a persona or certain groups of individuals, targeting customer jobs and aligning the organization around that customer job or customer job, a customer job cluster. Because the better you know the job to be done, the better you can create the customer experience. Because you know what the customer wants to accomplish, what they want to achieve. So with that knowledge, you can create the right marketing campaigns, you can create the right selling aids or buying aids, and you can create the right product or service. That's now a question from John. I find it hard to understand the hierarchy of jobs, with aspirational jobs being some of the most important in relation to customer outcomes. I absolutely agree. And in every project we do, we always try to kind of rise up to the very top and understanding customer jobs and aligning at the C-level, of course, behind those customer jobs as North Stars for the organization. So that is the first building block, understanding customer jobs and then determining, okay, these are customer jobs that are now becoming the center of our alignment. But that's not enough. There are more things we need to do. The next building block is creating trustworthy and transparent data. What do I mean by that? When I did the project for the mid-size German company, I tried to involve them as much as possible in the original research. So I invited people to participate in interviews. Then we evaluated the interviews, and then we looked at the data. We summarized it for pieces of the organization that could not attend. So it's super important in my mind to prepare the information in a way so it is consumable, it's transparent, it's visible, it's not hidden in some PowerPoint slides. It's like 24/7, always accessible. And also you can follow how the data got processed from the original interview to aggregated results. So there's no secrets, everything is visible to everyone all the time, and trying to immerse the stakeholders in the research as much as possible and as much as time as they have and as much it makes sense. So now we got the purpose, we got the data, because you want data to make to base decisions on, obviously, and not like just sticky notes on a wall. That doesn't make sense. The third building block is a rational decision-making criteria. And you may be familiar with this picture where there are groups in a room, they discuss customer needs, and whoever has the strongest voice may win the battle. It's like, hey, I talked to 3 customers, I know what they want, and the other group will say, I talked to 5 customers, I know much better what they want, and they fight, and somehow they come up with a decision. But it's not based on rational criteria. And the rational criteria, they make it fair to everyone. Everyone can participate. Anyone understands the criteria. And then it's a much different basis for making decisions. So there are more people I need to leave in. So number 4 is externally moderated process. I just can imagine how difficult it would be being part of one of these stakeholder organizations. Yeah, Michelle asked if I'm gonna give any criteria. I will. That will be the next after the six building blocks. I do have an example of what we apply. But being part of a stakeholder organization, or maybe even being part of the organization, that may be a very hard job to credibly manage the whole process and especially the decision making. So my recommendation is to use someone external, someone who has no internal bias, no interest in the outcome, no agenda, someone who's neutral, someone who is deeply familiar with the research, the methodology, and was also involved in creating the data, so that person can intelligently answer questions, talk about where the data came from and how it was processed. Of course, there could be someone, it could be an agile coach who's familiar with the methodology, or so maybe a customer researcher, but choose someone who is as neutral as possible, because that will create the most trust in the outcome and the results. So number 5, what's next? The next one is joint customer job prioritization. I'm going to talk more about this, how this happens, but this is the one building block where the magic happens. This is where you fuse the organization behind customer jobs. So you don't leave it just to one organization to make a decision. And remember, this is not about the solution. This is about, in quotes, the problem, customer jobs. And so why not involve every stakeholder organizations in making the decision what customer job to apply for, what customer problem to solve? And I think this is the strongest movement you can make in an organization, and the most trusted step when you involve other organizations as well, and not say, okay, me as engineering, me as marketing, me as product management, we are making the decision what problem to solve for the customer. I think there's no stronger way to get alignment, getting everyone behind supporting customer jobs. How this is going to work, I'm going to show you in a minute. The last one is similar to deciding what customer job to apply for. This is a collaborative strategy development. I'm going to show you a picture how this could look like. When I do workshops on strategy development, on the ideation, what marketing, sales, product development we could create as part of maybe a new product, then we typically do this in a workshop where we use the data from the customer research, and we have like 4 corners in the room, and in each corner we have another team working on part of the strategy. And after the workshop, every team can report back to the other teams what they came up with, what kind of ideas in terms of marketing, in terms of creating awareness with customers, in terms of creating buying aids, in terms of creating new products or services. And this is another point where I just feel that this is great for furthering understanding, for being able to contribute to someone else's strategy, to share ideas and get a common understanding of the way we solve problems. So this is the second strategic decision, a decision after firstly making the decision what customer jobs to apply for. This is how we're going to do it. So how can we work with these building blocks and making them happen? And there's a three-part process I'm suggesting here. It's a little bit more complicated, but these are the kind of essential 3 steps I would take in creating, especially this alignment piece. One is identifying customers' jobs to be done. The second one is prioritizing the customer jobs together, and the third one is that ideation of strategy. The first one, identifying customer jobs. This is how we do it. We do it with customer interviews, because customer interviews are giving you a chance to understand stories of customers when they try to make progress in life or in business. It shows their struggles, it shows their constraints, it brings up the jobs to be done, all the circumstances, pains and gains. In total, we are looking for 12 variables, which we call elements of progress design, or customer progress design. And then when we do the interviews in a structured way, we capture them on what we call the Wheel of Progress canvas. It's a vehicle, it's a tool we use to structure the information coming from customer interviews. John, who's participating in this session, also uses it extensively in his consulting work and in his training classes. And it turned out it's a great vehicle to capture information, to structure them, and educate other people about these stories that you heard in interviews. So you don't have the data anymore only in transcripts or some Excel spreadsheets or in PowerPoints. It's like, hey, look at the canvas, and you can guide someone through the steps of making progress. What we do when we have, like, let's say 10 interviews, of course, we consolidate them because we want to turn the single data points, which are, by the way, like puzzle pieces, into hard data. And then just focusing on customer jobs is we create a job map that has a sequence going from left to right, and it has a hierarchy going kind of top down and bottom up. So we know how customer jobs connect, how they feed, and how the purpose of the customer is really achieved. At the top, like John said, is like always the customer job at the highest level, at the purpose level, something customers cannot articulate easily. Sometimes they never talk about it. And we draw just the conclusion after a number of interviews. And we have a chance to realize what the customer job may be at that highest level. So that's a customer job map you can see on the right-hand side in yellow. It's part of our color coding. And then we can have a wonderful discussion about clusters of customer jobs that we want to apply for. Are there any questions up to now? I don't see anything in the chat, but I want to give you a short break to think about any questions. Okay, otherwise, at the end, we'll have another, we have time planned for Q&A. Okay, so at a very high level, this is our process: doing interviews, documenting them, aggregating them, using them to build a job map, and getting a real understanding of the nature of the customer jobs. So next, oh, I forgot to mention, I shouldn't have, but most recently we introduced a companion software that helps to support the interviewing process in terms of creating transcripts it does it really in a very wonderful, high quality way. And also finding these 12 elements that I talked about, it does a superb job to do that. And so very quickly we can create results. In fact, we evaluate with trained and experienced people customer interviews in real time. So let's say you have like a 45-minute customer interview, and then we do it, we document it as a team. Maybe there are 3 people from your organization participating, 1 lead interviewer, the other ones are note takers. And then at the end of the interview, we spend a little bit of time cleaning up the data, kind of honing it, honing the statement, and then we are done. So a customer interview evaluation is a backlog, is a thing of the past. And that's much more fun to move quickly. And my record was doing 7 interviews in a day, including evaluation. So let's take a look at the next step if there are no questions. It's about prioritizing customer jobs. And as I hear someone mute, because otherwise it's a little bit disturbing. Prioritizing customer jobs. And this is the step in my mind where the magic really happens. This is where you involve all the stakeholder groups in making decisions using rational criteria. And this is, someone told me, hey, Eckhart, I think this is really liberating. And I absolutely agree. I think this is the most liberating measure you can take, bringing everyone together, making them part of the decision-making process, and applying criteria that everyone can kind of accept and stand behind. And how it works is we are using Alexander Osterwalder's model. He uses 4 criteria of evaluating customer jobs. On the left-hand side, we are listing the customer jobs, and then we have horizontal, we have the criteria. 3 are related to the customer, and 1 is related to us. So it's like a stronger weighting on the customer side. Of course, you are flexible. You can use your own criteria. For example, how feasible maybe applying for this customer job, or is it even legal? It could be like a knockout criteria to serve a customer's job. And so we have these decision-making criteria. 1 is importance. So how important is the customer job for a customer? And we award like 4 points. 1 is very low, 4 is high for each of these criteria. Then we have tangibility, which is, can I feel it? Can I see it right now? Or is it something related to the future? We have satisfaction with the customer job. So how satisfied are people using the means to execute on the customer job available? And it could be that the job is very important, so it gets a high point. And it could be that it's done very well by the means they have, so it gets like a mediocre total value, because yeah, if it's done well and it's important, yeah, it's kind of mediocre. And then we build the overall value. It looks like this. This is from another project. This is actually from the project I did with John. It's in yellow, as you can see, customer jobs, statements, and then we both did an evaluation of what we think individually about these customer jobs. With my client, I did it with 8 people. So they represented each a different value stream in the company. We had engineering, we had manufacturing, we had sales, marketing, product management, and other groups. And I divided them up into teams of 4. And then I created 2 rooms in Zoom, and each team did individually an assessment of the customer jobs by using these 4 criteria. So importance of the job, tangibility, how satisfied people are, and how lucrative the job could be to the company. So are there many people maybe paying a little, or could there be just few people, but they would be willing to pay a lot? So trying to make an initial assessment of the market attractiveness for our company. And one group went down from top to bottom, the other one from bottom to top, so they couldn't cheat easily. And then we compared the results of 2 groups. And when there were differences, like one group awarded maybe 1 point, the other one 4, and it was like very apparent there was a misunderstanding. Then we had a dialogue about it. We discussed, how did you interpret that criteria related to their job? Or maybe there was a misunderstanding about the customer job. And there was a very fruitful discussion, and really had an alignment function, because we came up with a list that was accepted by every stakeholder group. Why? Because everyone was involved, everyone had a voice, everyone was heard, everyone was involved in awarding values, and then everyone could accept the result. That's what I mean by liberating. Like you're applying criteria that hopefully everyone accepts and can use to assess customer jobs. So Leslie has a question. Was there a difference on, I have to wear my glasses, on the team list based on whether they started from value or work backwards versus starting from the customer jobs? If I understand that question right,
well, let me clarify, Eckhart.
Thank you. Yeah, that would be great.
Yes. So you said you had the 2 groups and you broke them out separately. One worked top to bottom, the other worked bottom to top. So maybe I misunderstood. They were working the yellow columns, top to bottom, bottom to top. Okay, I was thinking side to side.
Exactly. So yeah, how we do it? We look at a customer job. Let's say group number 1 takes on the first customer jobs and then assesses each criteria, and the other one is starting at the bottom. And so yeah, eventually they will cross. And but the most useful thing is then having a discussion about discrepancies, if there are real differences between the groups.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
So the next, if there are no other questions, shouldn't the customers assess which jobs are important to them instead of the business stakeholders to avoid any biases? That's a great question. I think you could, if you like, you could introduce another round of interviews with customers to see if they agree with it. Let me admit Scott again. There could be an additional step, certainly, but we felt we had enough data from doing, actually we did like 40 interviews with customers, that we got a very clear picture, because what you cannot see here is the aggregation of the data. So we put like all the single data items, each statement on a big table, which is a whiteboard or mural, like a puzzle, and then we create clusters. And when you create the clusters, you can see the number of times like a pain or a gain or a customer job came up. So you have it's not statistically valid, I would say, but it gives you a pretty good feeling about the importance of one item versus another one. But if you want more validation, of course you can do that. You can get customers together, maybe in a focus group, and discuss this issue. But we felt, as I said, we felt very confident with the data we already had. It's super important to make that data transparent to the stakeholder organization. So there was a little bit work involved in pre-selecting customer jobs. I think we came up with like 100 customer jobs, and of course you cannot evaluate 100 customer jobs in just a couple of hours time with everyone. It was just overwhelming. So we did a pre-selection, so sorted out some customer jobs that didn't make sense at all, and used that final list of, I think, 25 jobs to get evaluated by both teams. Excellent.
Yeah, it's like a webinar type thing. Yeah.
So let's take a look at the third step, which is strategy development or ideation at that stage. And this is how I do it in my process. This is the last step. So customer progress design consists of 5 steps. And the last one is ideation of a strategy. And without knowing kind of the wheel of progress and how it works, what you can see here is the wheel of progress transmission canvas, which reflects the 4 phases the customer goes through in order to make progress. So if you will, the customer journey that we are looking at, we divided it up into like 4 different stages. And we look at events driving people forward. We're looking at forces. We capture habits that hold people back from making progress. We look at constraints, which make it difficult to make progress. And then when we have the prioritized customer jobs and the other items that we deem to be useful for strategy development, we program that canvas in these red areas. So like at the sidelines, mostly we implement, it's like programming flight computer on a Boeing 737. It's like you get all the parameters, you program it, and then you set the course for development. There are like these 4 phases that I mentioned. We have the passive search, which is a phase where the customer needs to become aware of an issue, and otherwise they procrastinate and they wait and may experience some harm or regret even, oh, if I just had done this like 3 years ago, I would be in a better place. In the next phase, it is helping the customer determine the solution space. Of course, we are also selfish. We want to be found like on the internet, but maybe we can help the customer sort out what are the issues involved in solving a problem. In phase number 3, where the customer makes trade-off decisions, which product or solution should I buy? We certainly can help the customer. We can offer them FAQs. Salespeople can provide them with stories from customers, things that we heard in interviews, anecdotes, how they made the right choice. And we can offer test rides in a realistic environment, can make the buying experience and choosing the right product as kind of as optimal, as best as possible. And in the 4th phase, it's all about the product, the portfolio, services that we can create to actually help the customer execute the customer job. And when we do this, it could look like this. It's like Canvas 360, like picking up the customer from where he or she just is very kind of doubtful, but hasn't really started the journey until the customer bought a new product, applied a new solution, and hopefully is a happy camper. And we can collect ideas, we can collect artifacts that we find a campaign that we find interesting or helpful. We can use from our AI companion ideas. I can ask the AI companion today, hey, based on the number of interviews we did, create me a Facebook campaign with like 5 different postings. And when I did this the first time, I was really blown away, because I said, this is a Facebook campaign that 100% matches what we heard in the interview, and would be super helpful for other people to read these posts and then get inspired or encouraged. So that encompasses strategy development and customer progress design. As I said, working in a workshop with 4 different teams, each one is tackling a different problem, is tremendously helpful. So that, I'm looking at the clock, so we have like 5 minutes left. Please use the chat again and let us know, what did you find most useful in this presentation? Is there anything that you think you can bring back to your company? Is there anything, any idea that was sparked? I know it was kind of a very quick walkthrough. Usually we take a little bit more time to do this, but maybe there are some takeaways that you can share with the group. And then we do we are getting to the Q&A. The question from BK, just to get back to Clayton, because this is the story of milkshake. Is the wheel of progress talk about the process of purchasing the milkshake, or is it choosing the milkshake from the alternatives? It's about everything. It's about understanding the whole decision-making progress. So in the third quadrant at the lower left corner, where the customer makes trade-off decisions, we also capture customer interviews, competitive products, because it really doesn't really matter whether source of information is it from your own product, is it from someone else's product. We just want to understand how the trade-off decision was made. This puts JTBD at the front of my mind to discuss with my clients. Yeah, if there was an outcome, that would be wonderful. Jobs to be done is, I think, an emerging way of thinking. It's not so well known in some parts of the world, but it has really tremendous value, especially when you are not working on hearsay, on assumptions, but really on data, on things that you heard from clients or from customers that you interviewed. Absolutely. So I absolutely encourage you to take this to the next step. We can easily take JTBD for granted and thereby overlook its importance. This is a nice reminder. Thank you very much, Scott. I appreciate it. I do this for the last 6 to 7 years and still feel that people use kind of old school things. I don't want to blame any methodology, but old school thinking and determine customers along very, let's say, static criteria, and that are not very helpful. So it's most helpful to look at causal effects, not like personality traits or things like that. Okay, so people have to move. I want to offer. Thank you very much, Michelle. Really appreciate it. So here are my final thoughts, and then we can answer more questions. When I created this presentation and reflected upon it, I noticed that we are able to answer 3 basic questions. This is not the circle, the golden circle of Simon Sinek. This is has a little bit different flavor. But I think we can answer the questions: the why, the what, and the hows with this process. The why is our priority list of customer jobs. So we know both from the customer point of view and our point of view as an organization, what customer jobs make sense to apply for. And just this information or this decision in and of itself has a tremendous value. It's like, hey, we made this decision together. We have a priority list. We decided to take on these customer jobs and not to take on other customer jobs, which also is a hard decision. Hard decision to say, what are you not doing, right? But it answers the why. It also answers the what. In my mind, the what is, in this case, it's what customer jobs do you want to help solve? What customer jobs are you applying for? So you have the whole landscape in front of you. You make the decision about a customer job and all of its sub jobs, and you know exactly what it does consist of. So there's no doubt. So, okay, if I apply for this job, this is all involved to do it. So we have the why, the what, and the how is when you create strategy. And what I'm showing here is the value proposition canvas from Alexander Osterwalder, where you have on the right-hand side customer jobs with their associated pains and gains. On the left-hand side, in the square box, you have the product and features that create the gains and eliminate the pains, so pain relievers, if you will. And by doing this work and thinking about how you can solve customer problems, you're really answering the how. So I think if you go through these steps, you're able to be able to answer a lot of questions. So let's do a quick close with a quote again from Clayton Christensen, where it talks about organizations typically structure themselves around function or business unit or geography, but successful growth companies optimize around the job. And I had a question recently on LinkedIn, what my interpretation was of this quote. And if you really need to make an organizational change to align with the customer, or Clayton Christensen calls it integrating around the customer job. And I said, I think it would be fair if you say that you have business processes that help to organize around the customer job, and not necessarily you need to do this with the whole organization. I know it would be impossible for many, but you could at least design your business processes in a way that it aligns, that it embraces customer jobs. So that was my interpretation. So Miko has a comment. Yeah, we have a customer design, a customer progress design companion, and we have an upcoming session. Just showing that quickly to you. Next week, same time. We do a demo on our AI companion, so I will be able to show you what you can do with the results. So after we have done the analysis, what kind of campaigns, what ideas can you create that are all based on your data? And that's very exciting because this is what we want, right? We want to create a strategy and not just focus on customer research. All right, I'm gonna go back to the Q&A. If you have any questions, unmute your phone or write it into the chat, however you like it best. Thank you, John, for your comment.
Any questions, Eckhart? Thank you so much for this session.
Thank you, Michelle. Or Marielle, or what? Sorry, I don't have...
Flemish.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm gonna share this on my YouTube channel, so if you want to play it back, it probably will be available. If you want to have the slide deck, just shoot me an email, and I'll send you a PDF of it.
Eckhart, I have a question.
Scott.
It's Scott here, yes. Thank you. This is awesome. Hey, I think the answer to my question is it depends, because there's always context. But do you have any comment on the helicopter view versus a micro view of a job to be done? I need to look after my aged parents, make sure they're comfortable. That's a job to be done, but it's aspirational. I need someone to change the pen, like very specific task-oriented job in the moment, which is critically important to feed the top. I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts on that range of job to be done.
Yeah, in fact, I wrote an article on LinkedIn about it, about the work John and I have done on a sample project. So one project that we can share to the public, and our discovery was that when we collected all the data items, and we collect between 70 and 130 elements per interview, and we look at them at puzzle pieces. We put them on a table. We sort them, we cluster them, we generalize customer jobs. Then maybe not the day off, but the next day or the next 2 days, you think about it, you ponder about what you've heard, and then it's like a discovery process. It suddenly makes click, and you realize the customer job at the highest level. So the way I segmented my job map is actually 3-part. One is buying jobs, because I not only look at the jobs of the actual, I mean, executing the customer job, which obviously is super important to make progress, but also customer jobs when they purchase. And there are lots of customer jobs, and they are sometimes the most important ones because they're not solved. They're not solved very easily. And this is where customers get stuck. And then at the top, we have we have a job called kind of job at the highest level. And this is blank at the beginning. And after we have pondered and discovered what the customer job is, then we write it down as an hypothesis. And then we refine it over time. We get more people to look at it who participate in the interviews. And sometimes we come up with this is what the customer really wants. This is, you don't hear it in interviews, but you can extrapolate it from the data. That's answering your question.
Thank you. I'll look for that post. Thank you.
It's an article in LinkedIn. You cannot miss it when you click on my contents. It was not a regular post.
Okay.
I think it's even a featured one. Thank you.
Okay, fantastic. If I can't find it, I'll ping you. Thank you very much.
Please do so. All right. Any other questions? Yeah, Jason mentioned that I do certification. So I haven't talked about how you can apply this stuff if you like it. I do have several offers in terms of doing a joint project, getting people educated on my methodology, up to certification. If you want to use it commercially, if you want to be the moderator, it's a generalist skill. It's kind of leading the process from building hypotheses with clients, creating the data, processing the data, driving the decision-making process, and then creating strategy. That's right. So different offers for different. I also take like outsource projects. Some clients say, okay, we don't want to be involved so much, Eckhart. You have much more credibility to do the stuff. So then I take and run with it. I do have consultants in the US as well, that I pull into projects typically. Okay. I see there are no other questions and we are already over time. If there are any other questions that I haven't answered or not answered correctly, please feel free, reach out in LinkedIn, send me email. If you like, connect with me. And I want to thank everyone for your time, getting involved in this issue. And I hope there was useful information that you can take back to your organizations or to your clients, and kind of start the alignment process button. Okay, thank you very much. I will end the recording session.
Thank you. Bye.
And wish everyone in the US happy Thanksgiving holidays.
Thank you, Eckhart. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.